All right, full panel here with me now. TW Rigi, look who's back. TW's here. Former communications aide with a fist bump to Republican Senator Lindsey Graham. Erin Maguires is a Republican strategist with us once again. Lindsey Granger, co-host of Rising on the Hill, and Dan Cannon, former Battleground States Director for the Biden and Harris campaigns. Hello to you all. Ooh. Nice to have you in. This is like the new cool topic, I guess. And the question is, like, is anyone here going to figure this thing out?
Well, boy, people have to. I mean, in politics, and I think Holly touched on this, right? Right now, left and right is not as important as top and bottom. And people are worried about big tech, big companies, AI taking over jobs. Reuters had a poll last month that 71% of Americans are very concerned about permanent job loss from AI. And I put that in the backdrop of this last month, where we had a bad jobs report in July, another bad jobs number coming out today, 86,000 layoffs, the most since 2020. So people are concerned about permanent job loss. They're worried about trusting these tech companies. They're not trusting the president on the economy. And so I think what's interesting to me about the politics here is the backdrop of being with these wealthy tech leaders who flushed the Trump crypto scheme with billions of dollars.
Well, they're also the ones making all these billions and billions and billions of dollars of investment, CapEx all over the place.
Sure, but does investment come back to workers is the question. I think the Hawley point, and I take Sam Altman as word, that he wants government to come in and actually partner with these companies. This is a serious question of a policy basis. I'm not against AI. I think that AI is important. But to do this in a way that protects workers and livelihoods is a big task that I'm not sure we're up to right now.
If you're against AI, it might come back against... No, I'm sure.
I think part of it was, the part of this event today was to promote AI in education. And to me, at the same time, that's beautiful. I think it terrifies me. Just understanding, thinking about, having a young kid, and then also understanding, like a New York Times article came out yesterday about Elon Musk reprogramming Grok to be more conservative. The New York Times studied the exact responses. One of them, for example, was like, what's the biggest threat to Western civilization? Back a few months ago, Grok said that it was disinformation. Elon Musk wrote back, okay, I'll fix this tomorrow. Tomorrow it said falling birth rates. And so I think, just with that, like, that's actual people and their ideals and their ideologies, and that's not just information. And so AI is aggregating a bunch of different information. And so I just want to make sure that we're protecting people as much as we can, knowing that the influences are just private people and billionaires and, not always having the same interest as neutrality.
Here's what stood out to me. It was nothing that was said today. It was Sam Altman at the end of last year, DealBook conference. He was talking about super intelligence. And will the governments come together to deal with it? Watch.
We are going to have some faith in our governments. There are going to have to be some policy issues around that. There is going to have to be global coordination to a degree that I assume will rise to the occasion.
The government's going to rise to the occasion all over the world. And I'm watching that and I'm like, what planet is he living on?
It's always the hopes and dreams of those in big tech that the government will step in and do their work for them. They don't want to put guardrails or parameters on themselves. You've seen this repeatedly with Facebook and with Twitter. We've been having this argument about when will government step in on social media companies to help rein that in, and now on AI to rein that in. My biggest concern for AI is truly with children. And I think that's the point the First Lady was making today. We have heard reports of kids killing themselves because of AI not giving them the tools they need to get the help they need. There is serious concerns about that unfettered access to information in a way that has no constraints, especially on a youth coming out of the COVID pandemic who don't have interpersonal skills in a way a lot of other kids do. That really concerns me. That should be likely the first place that government starts in this.
Totally agree with you. Bringing this out a little further, we aren't the only players in the AI space. China and other adversaries are working closely on this. And I think Donald Trump was smart to take a page out of William McKinley's book during the Industrial Revolution. McKinley focused on building infrastructure here and opening the doorways for private industry to open up pathways to build infrastructure. And second, put tariffs on other competing nations who might steal stuff from us. But it's a lot bigger now. We are actually more hands-on now with these executives than we ever were at the turn of the century in the Industrial Revolution. We're getting tariffs to bring this technology here, so we have the best minds and the best technology right here at home, so we can push this forward.
Around the table real quick. Musk not at the White House today. He's back when? Give me a month.
We are so thirsty for drama. Watch the summer turn pretty.
When is he back there?
Oh, I don't care. No, because there's always
he's the leading entrepreneur, one of the greatest minds of.
It doesn't matter
of
if
our
he's
lifetime.
back at the White House or not. Those conversations don't necessarily need to be in person. I'm sure there's plenty behind
has
the
his
scenes
phone
we
number.
don't know.
You know what's greater than Elon Musk's mind? Trump's ego. He's not going to be back.
No time soon is my prediction.
No time soon. News that just came in, and again, just around the table, the president going to be signing an executive order to rename the Department of Defense to the Department of War. Good idea. Does this matter? Not on.
We had
the right tone.
We had a Department of War in a very different scope for 150 years in our nation's history. It accurately describes the scope of challenges. The Department of Defense came out in the post-war period when we were changing our posture, expanding the role of the Defense Department. I think it's a clear-eyed view of the challenges we face. Yes.
I think that it's a good thing. It's a secondary name. It's not a full rename of the Department of Defense. It's allowing them to use it. He can be called the Secretary of the Department of War. Right. I think this is something that's going to to build into their warfighter ethos that you are hearing continuously out of this Department of Defense.
I think with the argument that America First and MAGA base keeps pushing forward to have the name the Department of War when most MAGA base doesn't want to get involved in any foreign conflicts seems very confusing to me.
It is confusing since that's what we ran in his first term as someone who would end wars. And I think Congressman Zinke is right. It's an ugly term. It's not something we want to be in. But I think of it as another one of the kind of Trump facades. It's not about the mission or making us more capable in any way. It's about a splashy thing he can talk about this branding.
All right. Arguments from both sides of the table. Good to have you back, TW.
Thank you. It's great to be here.